Alright, so I know Molten Core has been out for months, but I wanted to make this video, and if it goes well, it's kind of a test for Blackwing Lair, which comes out next month, which I'll make a similar guide for. I could also make one for Onyxia too, we'll see how this turns out. In this video I'm going to show you one of my Molten Core guild runs, and I'm going to try to be as concise as possible explaining what I do as a Holy Paladin. This video is not going to teach you how to get perfect parses or anything like that. Hell, I don't even do that or look at the parses often. What this video will show you is what mechanics you should look out for and what you should be made aware of if you're new to healing Molten Core as a Holy Paladin. I know each boss has like 2 mechanics and dies in 45 seconds, but it can be pretty important. I'm sharing what I do in this video, but as always, I'm open to feedback from other Holy Paladins and what you guys do to help make your run smoother. We're here to share ideas and help each other out. But let's be real here. You're mainly going to be spamming one heal, Flash of Light. So at the bare minimum, if that's all you can do, you're already on the right path. Now, some people will say they downrank. I have a high enough mana pool where I don't really need to downrank my Flash of Light. I just use max rank, and I don't really go before the boss dies. Again, this depends on your raid, how quickly they kill the bosses, and also your mana pool. If you do need to downrank Flash of Light, you could go down to 4. You could even spam rank 1 Flash of Light if you're completely and you just need that tiny little bit of heal to keep somebody up. This is just what I do. I spam rank 6. Just keep an eye on your mana pool and what you think would be most efficient for you. But if you want to play it safe, downrank a couple levels, try rank 4 to start with and see if that works for you. And before we get into the nitty-gritty, I highly recommend you get Pally Power to keep track of all your blessings. It's super important to make sure your entire raid is blessed with your assigned blessing. I'd say Salvation is the most important one to look out for, because if one of your DPS is missing Salvation, like a Warlock, they could easily pull aggro from your tank. So definitely get Pally Power. DBM is pretty essential too for raid warnings and telling you when something bad is happening. Links in the description below of this video if you're interested in checking out those add-ons. As for consumables, there aren't too many available in the game right now. If you're made of money, you could buy a flask of distilled wisdom, but that's not mandatory. I'll probably get some for BWL, but that's another story. Mana pots, demonic runes, dark runes are great to bring along to help you with your mana pool. As for food, I usually get stacks of Runtum tubers and nightfin soup. Tubers are plus 10 intellect, and I use mostly for trash pulls. And nightfin soup restores 8 mana per 5 seconds, I use that for bosses. You could use either of the 2 foods however you desire. That's what I do. As for enchants, I think enchants are pretty important, but I usually reserve them for pre-raid bis or bis gear only. That's if you're low on gold. You should really save the enchantments for those pieces of gear that will remain with you for a while. Healing assignments. If you're in an organized group, keep an eye out for healing assignments. You may be assigned to raid heal, or you may be assigned to a specific tank. If you're not sure, don't be afraid to ask. Same thing with cleansing. There are a few bosses in Trash that will need your cleanse ability. You may also be assigned to judge light or wisdom on a boss, so keep an eye out for that from your raid leader or your class leader if you are the paladin assigned for judging. Alright, let's move on to Trash. So for Trash mobs, follow your group, stack when needed, and keep your cleanse button ready. One of the most important things to cleanse is called Soul Burn from the Firelord mobs. Soul Burn inflicts damage and prevents spell casting and lowers physical damage dealt, so it needs to be cleansed immediately. If it's cast on you and nobody's cleansing it, you could just bubble right out of it. The Ancient Core Hounds could cast several debuffs too. Keep an eye on your raid and cleanse them off when necessary. The lava packs that you encounter after Garr are pretty rough. Keep your fire aura up and keep an eye on cleansing any debuffs with them as well. Alright, so let's move on to the bosses. Starting with Lucifron, I usually use Devotion or Shadow Aura for this fight, since Lucy does a few shadow attacks. Stand back with the rest of the ranged. If you get Lucifron's curse, stop casting until a mage or a druid cleanses it off of you, or you'll go pretty quickly. Alternatively, if nobody cleanses you, you could bubble to clear it off. Cleanse impending doom off yourself first, then prioritize cleansing it off the tanks. Then as many others as possible. If you're unable to cleanse all of them in time, take note of who has it and prepare to heal them. You shouldn't get mind controlled, but if you do, you could bubble out of it. Magmadar. I swapped to Fire Aura for the Magmadar fight. I typically make sure I'm in range to heal the main tank. It's a big area, so it's easy to get out of range. When Magmadar is about to cast his first fear, called Panic, precast Bubble, or Bubble as soon as he fears, if you don't already have a fear ward on you. This allows you to continue healing. Most of the time Magmadar dies before he casts his second fear. Also, don't stand in fire. Gehennas. Gehennas does fire and shadow magic. You could also just use Devotion Aura since his Rain of Fire could be avoided, and the shadow bolts are typically just healed straight up. If you see Gehennas' curse on a tank, Try to stall until a mage or a druid cleanses it off, or else your heals will barely do anything, since it reduces the target's healing effects by 75%. If you are in Arena Fire, you could be lazy and just bubble in it instead of moving out. That's usually what I do. Try to stand a bit out of range to avoid the Fist of Ragnaros stun, however. Garr. For Garr, switch back to Devotion Aura. I think the most important thing here is making sure you're in range to heal everybody. Garr will cast Magma Shackles, which slows your movement speed. You could cast Blessing of Freedom or bubble out of this, but just be wary that you're still in range for heals. Don't stand near his Fire-sworn minions, especially when they die, because they'll explode and knock you back. Positioning is key for Garr. Baron Geddon. Switch back to Fire Aura for Baron Geddon. Stand at max range with your group. Cleanse yourself immediately when you get Ignite mana, it drains your mana, and then proceed to prioritize cleansing other healers first, then other mana users. If you're low on mana, don't bother cleansing Ignite mana off rogues and warriors, since, well, they don't have mana, so it doesn't do much for them. And as always, if you get inflicted with the bomb, run to your raid group's assigned area for the explosion. You could bubble or bop yourself after you explode to reduce falling damage. Shazzrah. I usually switch to Concentration or Devotion Aura for Shaz. The most important thing for you is that you need to stand at max range for Shazzrah, or else he will counterspell you for 15 seconds, which can be devastating. But if you stand at max range, you'll avoid it. He casts a curse that increases arcane damage taken. I also bring a greater arcane protection potion just in case. Your mages and druids should be cleansing this ASAP to prevent damage. Shazzrah usually dies fast if the tanks can grab aggro and move him back into position after he blinks. Remember, stay out of counterspell range. Sulfuron. Not much to say here. You could use Fire or Shadow Aura depending if a priest gives you shadow protection. If not, you could default to Devotion if you're in the main tanks group. My raid group usually AoEs down the adds, and I'll typically bop a mage. So see if there's a bop assignment, or choose a mage and tell them in advance that you're gonna bop them, so they could go a little ham on AoEing. Other than that, spam heal the tanks once all the adds have died and you win. Golemagg. If you're grouped with your tank, you could use Devotion Aura. If not, I default to Fire Aura. There's not too much of this fight either, it's pretty much a tank and spank. There shouldn't be much raid healing needed, so keep a close watch over your tanks. The main tank on Golemagg and the 1 or 2 off tanks occupying the Corehound adds. Majordomo. Again, if you're grouped with your tank, you can use Devotion Aura. If not, I default to Fire Aura, seeing as the adds have several fire abilities. Keep an eye on your assigned tank, or if you're raid healing, chances are there'll be a lot of raid healing needed. Spam your Flash of Light to the best of your ability. Don't be shy to use a mana pot or a rune to help with your mana pool. If you get teleported in the middle fire pit, you could bubble and run out to avoid further damage. Keep the heals up and let the raid do their thing. For Ragnaros, you'll most likely be assigned where to stand. The raid is usually spread out, so you may only have a few targets within your range to heal. Be aware of your surroundings as a result. Put that Fire Aura on too. It's generally a good idea to chug a greater fire protection potion. If you get knocked back, bubble and run back to your spot. Rinse and repeat.